right, greetings. So it's really unfortunate, but a lot of our folks are not getting it, and some are, and just the synchronicity or the timing right now of so many different things being revealed. It's amazing because it's all coming out, and I invite people to observe the patterns rather than get attached to the personalities, not to anyone's personality. I invite folks to observe the patterns. So I have some of the older books from this man's cult. A lot of them, when people leave the cult, you just it's so actually traumatizing. You may even not want to acknowledge that it's traumatizing because any intelligent person is thinking like, how did I let myself get so far into this into a cult without realizing an intelligent person? So you just really want to get away from it. So this is just one of the pictures from his older books, not the new series of books. And I have, actually, I bought pretty much everything I can get my hands on when I was looking to research this man, of his older books that are out of print. Of his Divine Family Community, Divine First Thought, First through Fifth Divine Acts. So a lot of these are out of print. When I was leaving, I even saw that these books cost a lot to produce, have been actually thrown in the garbage. So these are some of the older copies. I had so many of this man's books that I paid full price for and had bought for family members. These are some of the books that are out of print. But something most likely you're not going to see. These are all some of the newer books that they have. But if you were to look at the older things, the older pictures, I want you to note this sister right here. This sister right here. These sisters are still with this man. She came to him as a young girl, right? According to his story in Africa, he stopped. This is his whole story of how he got her. She probably was one of the older ones that came to him. Greetings. But this sister right here, who is from BK, who is a lawyer. These are from Africa. These two have, well, these three have degrees, undergraduate and master's degrees, as far as I know. At least these two I can pretty much confirm because I've spoken to her mother and she was a lawyer. But if you look at the expression on her face and all the older books, which I purchased, she always had this look of like either like being angry or super down and depressed. The recent books, I guess he finally broke her, and she must have been a very harder cookie to crack. This is like the beginning of her face changing. But I used to always be like, why does her face look like that? Why does she look so angry and mean or just downright depressed? But this is the one that ran away before. These two, I'm not going to mention their names, but once I heard come out of his mouth, Joseph Robinson, in the Royal Hall that my sister and I helped pay for, I had to get them pregnant around the same time as soon as possible, right? So these are some key things that sounded crazy, and usually in a cult, nobody will question the cult leader. So I want, hopefully you folks to just peep and understand part of it. It's a process, and there are some patterns that we are not seeing, that we're not comprehending. A con, as the con will tell you a bit of the truth, but the truth, he'll tell you a bit of the truth, but it's mixed in with a lot of lies. That's how most masses of people are manipulated through religion. But the con is usually telling you to look at another con. Look what this con is doing. Greetings. Look at what this con is doing, what this con is doing, right? But you're not banking on the con member that's telling you about it conning you. Because why would a con member tell you about other cons? So they were in the States. They were in Georgia. Some people may be familiar with them over the years, depending on your age. He's legally blind. She came to him as a young girl. She was one of the older mates. Now there's another mate that's a young Belizean girl that's with him. But this sister right here is key, because in all the older videos, she looked really down and depressed. And in his old website, which he's taken down by now, when I was researching, I went through as much as I could on the old website before even going down to visit, right? Because he didn't live in the state, so it wasn't like I could just roll up and just check them out and see the patterns for myself. And quite often, as is the case, many people can't see how these people are living. You don't know, and people have, naturally questions who's whose mother and stuff like that. And when you ask questions like that, you will always deflect it, right? That's a key pattern. There's a deflection. There's never direct answering of the question, and there's a rationalization and a justification for everything. But what I saw today is a picture, and they look to document things because pictures tell a story, and we think in pictures and stories, and usually we have a tendency to like the pictures and the stories that we want to hear, the pictures and the stories that give us comfort, right, that make us feel better, that distract us and give us quote unquote hope from the situations or the challenges that we experience as African Americans, all people, but I'm speaking as a Black person, as an African American. You want hope from the 60s, from the racism, from, all of that distress and the economic hardships. You want hope. So when they're showing you a picture, it plays to your hope. So what do you see here without knowing the details? You see family, and looks like, oh, she's very, very happy. So she's always super happy-go-lucky in all of the pictures. And none of her physical child is actually not there. Her mother is passed away in Africa. We heard a story about each and every one of them. Her mother is, I understand, Greece. Her mother, they're older. I met these people, but you cannot vouch for these people who you have not lived with. And that's the story not the story. This is the point I want to drive home. You're looking at the pictures or a book. People are showing you what they are aware, simple patterns of what you want to see. Family, royal, unity, because everybody's dressed the same. You can't see the inner workings of what's going on here. And I don't even know if you can catch all the older stuff. I had wanted to see some of the older things that are out of print. I took some pictures of some of the older materials that I had gathered, but when I was looking to get out of the cult, I wasn't trying to take all those heavy books with me. It was traumatic. I left a lot of my clothes because I was like, I don't need the clothes. I just needed to get out of here because it was feeling very dangerous. It was just feeling increasingly off and dangerous. But I don't advise anybody to go purchase his old books because I don't know that the average person will not be pulled in, to be quite honest with you, because it's very convincing. It's like, and you think, how can intelligent people get pulled into cults? But it's possible. One of the things I saw today is disturbing, and I knew it was coming. He's familiar with Dr. York. I don't know Dr. York personally, but I do remember my first boyfriend at 16 who was into the music industry. I remember him showing me a picture of Dr. York, and as a young woman, I was thinking like, why does his hair look like that? Does he have makeup on or something like that? Just very innocently. And I remember seeing the Ansars back in the day in Brooklyn on the table, the Muslim brothers that sold the oils that had the all white on. And I saw a picture of one of them, kind of looking like a Jesus figure, attractive brother with a long beard. And I was like, wow, he looks familiar. He looks just like that brother I saw years ago that had the bow tie on. It looked like he had lipstick with a either a press and curl or something, looking kind of pimpy or effeminate. And I was like, they look like the same person. So, I wasn't that familiar, but, they would tell you Dr. What was it? Al-Imam al-Hadi al-Makdi or something like that. But I knew it was the Muslim brothers that sold oil, and they had a picture of this guy on the table. So, years later, fast forward, in his books and some of his tapes, he makes mention of Dr. York, So, it's so much stuff that people don't see. And if you notice, they have similar patterns. He has taken other people's monies and ways that he's gotten money. A lot of it was our money to build a pyramid in beliefs, the Great Pyramid, the Triple Nine. You know, so all this fantasticism and numbers. I'm not saying numbers are the universe, all that stuff is relevant, but we're getting caught up in the romanticism of what we want to see in terms of family and community. The romanticism of romanticizing Africa, of romanticizing nature is what's getting us into trouble, because all that emotionalism and romanticism is short circuiting our common sense. And I have to say, it's like you could really feel torn inside. This is one of the ways it gets, especially women, you feel torn because you could feel you want family. All women want family, whether they come through your womb or not, and community. We want to see ourselves perpetuated, you know, into the universe. We want to raise boys and we want a secure family, you know. And so this is what's speaking volumes. What we want to see. You want to see sisters that are happy with their mates. But I'm here to tell you, I wanted to see that. I visited and researched it. You cannot see what's going on with these folks. You just can't. You can't. The romanticism is getting us in trouble because we want so bad for there to be a community. Not to say that there can't be, but we're not having a community. We can't build when folks are scamming. You can't build with folks that are scamming you. You can't build with folks that won't address molestation and exposing children to deviant sexual habits that the children don't have a mind or maturity to deal with. You can't, when you're exploiting people and when you cut them off from their family and they're not free, we can't build like that. That's not building. We're trading off a quote-unquote white version of supremacy for a black version of control. That's not building. But believe me when I tell you, it's the patterns, it's the seeing of the patterns. And when you're not seeing the picture, right? Pictures tell a story. When you're not seeing the pictures and you're in there and you're living there, that's when you're seeing what the truth is, right? A lot of people are so traumatized, they never come forward and they tell their story. Because you're thinking like, you know, is it me? But if you stand back, the longer you're out of there, the patterns are so 100% on point. There's a brother that put out... a young man that put out a video today. I think his channel is Langston 2092. And when you hear this brother speak, you're like, wow. I invite folks, go look at that video because he's making it plain. He's making it plain and simple what he experienced. So maybe folks would think that women are emotional or you can't take our word for it, right? We're just being emotional. We're not seeing, well, maybe it was this. You know, one brother said, well, was that, did you see if the other sisters were happy? I mean, it's like you're questioning somebody, right? Listen, go check out the brother's video. Because when you watch this, you can be like, wow, 110% on point what he described. But we're so in romantic love with the images of what we want to see. You don't know this man. You don't know his criminal history. All you know are the stories that he's telling you, and you don't cross-reference them. If you're in a position of a war-torn country, right, where in Africa where many women are being raped, and your mother started having children as a young girl, almost like a child, right, and she has all these children to secure, then from an African perspective, a mother's going to look to secure her daughter with someone that seems like he can take care of her, right? That's not many of our reality in the United States. If you've been cheated on and divorced and depressed and going through all kinds of other kinds of issues, and you're a single mom with your son, then he may look, if you're so disappointed, it may look very, very attractive to a woman that's older. Some of these women were already in mate relationships, had boyfriends or whatever, or partners. I wouldn't say boyfriends. They had men they were in relationships with when they met him. And he got all in their head, and the next thing you know, they were leaving their menfolk. Are you going to see that stuff by looking at a picture? And when you get into an isolated environment, they're going to tell you all kinds of rationalizations and justifications. Key, you can't cross-reference him. He's going to make sure that he blocks any effort for you to cross-reference. And I'm so, not glad in a sense, but it's really interesting that all of these patterns are being revealed. If black folks would take the time to put the romanticism to the side to see how you are being scammed. Yes, it is possible for you to be scammed from people that wear locks, that have chocolate skin for their own agenda. And you can justify the agenda. All right, many will justify, well, at least I know, there's no drinking, there's no smoking. It's like choosing the lesser of the evils. But evil is evil, you know, if we could use that word, for lack of a better term right now. But yeah. This woman, he said, I had to get those two pregnant as quick as possible. They were pregnant at the same time. The different patterns I noticed in some of the older out of print books, he changed his language, right? So as a mother, I can see patterns. He changed the language up. It's so much that you can't even see. But now, and I predicted this, he was going to go undercover because he's smart. He's watched what happened to Move. He watched what happened to Dr. York. And he's bigged up Dr. York. He or some of these other young cult leaders have all building pyramids. We're all into symbolism. It's really occurring to me that we're really into a lot of spookism. A lot of spookism. And so it makes us easy prey to be conned or whatever. So they've got the pyramids and the family and the mates are bowing. By the time they get through rationalizing, you're isolated and they give you a justification. Oh, we do this because of that. You can't even peep what's going on. You're seeing the whole ritual, and everybody and community members are they're participating in a con without even realizing it. So as I look today at the pictures of the new children, and I knew he was going to go underground so that he can have children with the new mates. The new mate that this man has here in Belize, who was a young woman when she came there. I don't think her mother knew what she was getting into. I don't know if she's had a child. But two of the younger recruit males that he had that have been mated to his daughters. Their parents weren't privy to the process, the hazing and breaking process when they're inside. And they're only allowed to come in when they're only allowed to come out and to speak when they have been, I'm thinking of the males that have been recruited from Belize. When they are thoroughly broken and when he knows he has 100% allegiance. So he's looking to build his own version of whatever. It's no different than the Mormon cults, the Holy Hells, the Hell's Gates. There's a whole playlist, black and white, of cults for you to look at. There's a playlist on this channel. Please take your time and educate yourself, because if you're not familiar, you'll be asking the base questions. Or you may be tempted to think these people are stupid or they're idiots. Many of us are being scammed every single day. There are different levels of it. In the churches and synagogues outside, you can get up and you can walk and you can go home. In Belize and in Central America, people think this is South America. It's Central America. These guys can fly underneath the radar, right? They can fly underneath the radar because the laws are different here. The age for consensual sex is different here. So the basic thing I can say is please step back, or I invite you to step back and see the patterns. You don't know how each one of these women came to be here. Are you able to cross-reference his character or how these people were able to be there? Wouldn't you think it would be smart to speak to any of their parents? Right? Even if they eat meat or chicken, or if they worship Jesus, that doesn't mean they have no common sense at all. Good cross-reference would be to speak to any of their parents if they're still alive. Some of them are dead. You don't know the backstory. The romanticism is what's getting us in trouble. And under the guise of romanticism, many mothers were not asking the right questions. We're defending people who are telling you stories that you want to hear because we don't want to be responsible. We don't want to think for ourselves. And we're quite addicted to spookism. So I invite you all to please go, if you think it'll be beneficial, if you're willing to do the research. Go look at that the young man, his video, Langston 2092. He's telling you something. Again, also our people are so afraid of not fitting in, or we're afraid of, no, this leader, not another leader. Don't take this leader away from us. There's no way they could have scammed us. No way. In his simple language, he's just laying it down so plain. And I think, yeah, if you just give some examples in terms of watch how these guys handle money. They're covert. They're not forthcoming. They deflect when it comes to answering any kind of questions. Check out Joseph Robinson, his video, How Did You Become, I think I had something on a video on this channel, How Did You Become a High Priest? Listen 3-4 times to his answer. Look at the body language. He's telling you something. He's telling you something. And yes, it's a reality. Accept the reality, or I invite you to accept the reality. We have scam artists, pedophiles, molesters within our own community, right? And they could be of any sexuality. And they could hide behind, what he put out some video around heterophobia. Their worst nightmare is to be exposed. And when people are in very, very deep, I just really feel so much for the young men in there, because they're probably defending with his life when somebody's in so deep. When he gets people pregnant and when all their resources are gone and they're isolated, it really affects your critical thinking. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. So it's bigger than him. It's bigger than any of the black cults. It's really about people being responsible for thinking for themselves and not being so frightened into being so scared for your life that you jump from the frying pan into the fire, right? Because the best that we can do is to be responsible. All of these religions and New Age stuff have us so freaked out about the afterlife that people make decisions, rash decisions. But again, I'm gonna tell you, this sister right here is a pattern. She used to look so depressed and down. We watched her having breakdowns there, and I have tremendous passion for her. They have children in there. Where they going? Where are they going? I've spoken, to a mother. This guy flies underneath the radar. He's legally blind. You don't even know how he tells a story about how he came to be legally blind. And I'm here to tell you, as a sister, that could have been me. That could have been me. And I'm intelligent. I'm not stupid. But what they're playing on is your compassion for your people. And I'm going to do something about it. And there's nothing wrong with having good intentions. But I really got taken to school. Not everybody is thinking like you. And you have to understand what people's motivation is. You may be thinking one way, but this guy has another motivation. And it's the way I saw him speaking to his mate. This one, who is a so-called queen mother, several things she said to me. She said, when we're done with you, we leave you by a tree. Another pattern is when they would want to hit us up for money, they would want to take us for a walk through the garden. Another time, this woman said to me, and I don't like to exaggerate, misquote, she said, but when I asked, I said, listen, I have a question. I want to know, I'm not comfortable. I said, I'm very respectful to my elders. Respect, that's common sense. I said, I'm not comfortable with the way Joseph Robinson, they call him high priest, which I will never call him again, and he's only a high priest of deception. Why? I'm not comfortable with the way that he speaks to people. I said, well, I come from this sounds verbally abusive. Her answer to me, right? Her answer, the so-called queen mother, her answer was just the way he talks. Then she said, the Joseph, so-called high priest, she said, he's treating you like one of his wives. This is what she said to me. He's treating you like one of his wives. This was the so-called Oshami. I'm not going to mention her name here, right? She's been with him for many years, so now they all have locks. Their hair has changed. Even one of the older food videos they all had overalls on when they were living in Florida. So their gear has changed up several times. But anyway, she is the feminine speaking voice. He calls her his walking stick. So just like in the military, right? Well, they'll give you different positions. So everybody's given a position or a title or something they're in charge of to make you feel good and to distract you from the fact that you're really being scammed and conned and held control of. It was one point I was in it. She's so sweet and nice, but I was thinking like it really felt like it was the Stepford wives. These are like the Stepford wives. I can't even tell you all the time just the different things, This one, it said, is 100% loyalty. We have 100% trust, 100% trust, 100% loyalty. This is what she said to me, because I had questions about the different patterns. And I'm not one to accuse somebody falsely of anything. But there are these subtleties that people, if you don't live in it, you can't see the patterns. So when somebody is trying to warn you or tell you about the patterns, you don't have a frame of reference. That's how they get you. And that's usually why they like younger women or young people, because you don't have a frame of reference. Look at the patterns, people. But anyway, when I would come to her with questions, right, we were told, after we got there for a while, then they give you some of the protocol. It's dripped down. It's a slow, insidious process, breaking process. We're told to speak to her, to the Oshami, the feminine speaking voice. You can't speak now to him. Then at one point he said, we don't deserve to speak to him. We have to speak to her. So when I would come to her and ask her a question, she would go, I'll relay that to the high priest. Hate him. I don't even like saying it. I'll relay that. So sometimes the relaying would be a week, 2 weeks. Then I would come back and say, excuse me, I asked you a question about protocol, how different things are working here. I came all this way from the States. You know, my life is very serious. I came with my family members. I came, you know, and she was like, well, the high priestess received your message, you know, and they would just drag it out a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they never answered anything directly. After we got some food, usually some insufficiently sprouted black-eyed peas, bananas. Sometimes the bananas were good because this is Belize, or sometimes overripe bananas. The food got progressively worse because can they prepare food? Yeah, but I'm also a chef. But the thing is, by the time before we left, they started giving us slop. They started giving us slop. This is a pattern you wouldn't see. One of the things that he's known for is food, which is easy because black folks are an easy target because our health is so shot. So it's an easy way for a con to have it in. They point out something on your overweight. They know that most likely when some of your organs are failing or something, or you're in a toxic relationship. It's not mind reading. That's many of our realistic situations. So anyway, they come at people from the angle of food, vegan food, like it's a religion. It's not hard to not eat junk. But anyway, you would come to her with questions and they would drag it out for weeks at the time. So she has 100% loyalty to him. And there are other things that I'm not going to reveal about her, but I lived in there. That's why I can tell you. No, it wasn't a million years, no, but it was long enough, almost 2 years to tell you. Also, when I initially came, I remember giving my rent money because we came down, we invited for a ceremony, a union ceremony, right? And then he would say things, oh, we haven't invited a lot of people out down here. We want to keep it really, really close. You know, when people only inviting close family. Maybe 1 or 2 other people was there, me and somebody else. Now, looking like Jack behind, looking like a, but anyway, so you're feeling so compassionate and wanted to help this family and community. I gave my rent money when I visited Belize for legal fees, which is interesting because this one is a lawyer, right? She's always by his side. She helps write, you know, they all help with the writing and different stuff. She more so watches a lot of the children. She has several of the children. But anyway, they were in a car accident. And she had been arrested. But my point is that I immediately gave funds, my rent money to help. And I figured I can go back to the States and I can make more money to pay. But I really wanted to support. But without hesitation, just to show you the loyalty. This one gave her her house and all her resources. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just money that these people go after. They're all talented. Knows how to do grant writing and funding. Was a librarian, a researcher, physical therapist, dancer, but just multi-talented and work ethic. This is a lawyer. She's brilliant. All of their resources, human resources, in terms of talent, skills, and ability, they use. This one edits videos all the time and is transcribing his books. You know, this one is a lawyer. She all she does is, you know, she edits videos all day. This one is taking care of all the children. You know, now there are new babies there, and I knew this was coming. So when you see him, he'll release a video or a CD on CD Baby to sell it so you can keep expenses down. Unless you all donate money, which I do not recommend you give any money because you don't realize you're helping to support his family, and unfortunately, you know, they've got a huge tract of land, but if they've been over there for well over a decade, you know, basically they're hoarding because he wants absolute control. So this man that's legally blind, he gives you his own different fantastical tales of how he came to be legally blind. But one of his peers even hit me to that whole situation. So all this to say, you cannot vouch for people you have not lived with. I'm in there watching people have almost like breakdowns, and initially to some of the other initiates and recruits. So I invite you to go with a fine-tooth comb, because by the time they see, they're probably going to, I don't know, this one is old. He's older. He's an older G. These new guys that are out here, this one is savvy. Most of us have no idea of a master manipulator that does not have a conscience. How do you deal with somebody that does not have a conscience? It's a whole nother level of psychosis, right? This guy. And when you have the new men, this was, you know, this is pretty much all his children that are there. Yeah. Do the math. These are pretty much his children. And so he's using, from my observation, humble observation, the 3 young people from Belize to give him credibility with the Creole and as a gateway and entrance into the community, into beliefs, because he's not stupid. He's very well aware that this is a different culture, and these folks, even though they may not have as much materially as other folks here, you get in with folks, he has access to land. And if you get in with the people here, they'll give you access to the community. Because as he said, he has a plan. This guy, this is Joseph Robinson. He calls himself High Priest KWATAMANI. He also calls himself the Earth Solar Messiah. He calls himself spiritual healer, soothsayer, supreme spiritual leader, and all this other stuff. If you were to look at some of his videos, and I invite you, don't sleep. Don't sleep, because you could be sucked in, just like the rest of these cults. She was sucked in as an older woman. She was a young girl sucked in. She was younger. You know what I'm saying? And then she was definitely younger. He got some of these folks, they had been out of college, but they were already in a relationship. But he's going to give you the business. This is a master manipulator and a con man. And again, it's challenging to articulate it, so I make an effort to keep it as simple as possible. And I invite you to step back, not to go into the romanticism. Oh, but it's a black family, or it's a black man. He's eating a lot of raw fruits and vegetables. That's not the issue. It's the control and the manipulation. How do you think all these popes, ministers, bishops, new age leaders, and gurus, how do you think they get in? Because they're showing you right diet, and they're talking about peace and this and that. You can't see how they're living and how they are dealing with young women that are coming for priestess training. You can't see. Some of these people are so traumatized, they never speak up. And I used to wonder, how come nobody speaks in here? It's the patterns. Step back and look at the patterns. We are refusing to look at the patterns. You got to go back and do the history to cross-reference. They just like they tell us that so-called the white Western culture burns all the books. Oh, well, some of these people, they burn all the books too. So that you can't cross-reference, because the mother of a young man that's in there now, who is two of them just had babies in there. And I don't mean anything bad towards the family, but this is how they get us as women. But it is what it is. This is a con artist. This is a con artist. And unfortunately, they're in so deep with loyalty to this, that the women are going to they're turning a blind eye to what's being done. It's all kind of rationalizations and justifications. This one that, told me she wanted to leave. He asked her in front of me. See, it's the way they do it. It's deception. Go ahead and tell her, Mama so-and-so, her name, how many times you wanted to leave. I'm in a meeting with them. Isolate, because they make you go into, they have you go into meetings privately and divide you up. And say, go ahead and tell her, that's one of the techniques, is testimonials. Go ahead and tell her how many times you wanted to leave. Her. Oh, more times than I care to imagine. Their royal hall, which we help build with our money. A large portion of our money in our savings. This one, when he asked her a question out in there, they got a whole thing going. It's very, very weird. And she said, well, which thing do you want me to say? Do you want me to say this, or do you want me to say that? These are subtle patterns that you're not going to see. I invite you to take your own romanticism about family and eating healthy. That's common sense. That's natural. But it's those natural desires that are being manipulated. And now, once you start having babies in there, you're in very deep. And the average person is not going to walk away. It's no different than the Mormons. It's no different than these other cults where they're isolated. They are isolated from their. That's a fact. Isolated, but then her mother gave her over, because her story. She's from Africa, so war-torn environment with a whole lot of children. Her mother started having children very, very young. And this is not for exposing. This is for education, so that folks can peep the patterns. And then this one, they're so devoted, because you know what they're mostly devoted to? The children. The children. This man is in his 70s. Yes, women and eggs get older, but so do young men. Excuse me, not you, so do men. And he's in his 70s. Sorry. I don't care how much traditional whatever you're talking about in this day and age, and you're looking to breed with a younger. This man is so selfish. He's got other men in it. You would have thought that, hey, the young girl that was in there, that he would have had one of his sons made it. But no, he's so greedy and wanting to use her singing abilities and other stuff, that he went and made it this young girl from Belize. So that's not the reason that she came in there. Her mother was trying to secure her. So he even said, greetings. He even said that he said, I'm older, but I still got some seed left in me. You know, it was just stuff that we was hearing over time. So sometimes you're second guessing, well, maybe he didn't mean this. Maybe he meant that. Wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt. But when you're in these cults long enough, it starts to short circuit your intuition and your common sense. It's a slow, insidious process that is magnified when you are in isolation in a cult. All the music that you listen to is controlled by him. You're told, oh, they don't want to expose the children to anything negative from the outside. But if you're there long enough, you start to see the inconsistencies. It's a process, gaslighting, and they also try to make you think that you're crazy. And they'll drive you crazy. And they'll also tell you that you won't be able to survive if you leave the cult. They'll tell you that you won't be able to survive. So it is what it is, even if it has black skin on it. But again, I invite you to see the patterns. I invite you to see the patterns. You know, this is bigger than money. Money is gone, whatever. But it's the principle. If I know something is going on, then it's my responsibility to say something, because I went over there with the very best of intentions. Yes, he took emails and different things and videos and chopped them up to put to intimidate me and my family. You could say whatever you want, but if I'm telling the truth, I'm gonna tell the simple truth over and over and over again. So you can expect to see him coming. I can guarantee you're gonna see something at his so-called amusement park, the temple that he's built with other people's money. Another scam scheme. Then he's also scam scheme, just like Jim Jones. Many people don't know. Jim Jones used basketball to lure young men in. He's going to have some kind of donations, ask you for donations so they can build the basketball court. My sister and I did a fundraiser, bought sneakers for all of them. I hand painted the shirts over there, sent supplies in the barrel. It's not tooting my own horn, because I'm giving as a mother and as a woman in the community, donating to somebody that I think is doing something worthy. I could not have anticipated the conning and the scamming and the manipulation of young people and of women that was going on there. Couldn't have anticipated it. And so I went down there and I got taken to school. So some people are going to hear all this information, and some people are still going to go into these books. Some people are still going to go in here and get sucked in. Yeah, I have a family member in this picture. Yeah, and he's going to tell you all kinds of stuff. But I invite you, yeah, this young sister from Belize now is his mate. Her mother didn't send her there for that. Her mother didn't send her there for that. Right? Yeah, so you see family. Oh, it's a tribe and all this other stuff. Con artists. Yes. And their past, some of the stories he was telling us, he sounded like a straight pimp. He was sounding like a straight. These are some of the older books. You know, I couldn't carry all this stuff as I was leaving out. These are some of the books that are out of print. Books are so expensive to print. When we were leaving, at some point, we saw some of these in the garbage. So reading and to discover, I noticed the pattern of his language changed in those old books. And I would ask questions. I even tried to order a lot of his older music. So all this to say, see the patterns, put the romanticism to the side. Yes, we have people within our community that do scam us, and they don't get a pass because they're eating fruits and vegetables. Yes, some of the newer young people unfortunately now have children. Children are not a mistake, but it's like, oof, it's painful to watch, because their parents have to rationalize and justify and deal with this stuff every day. It's hard to live with. I had a family member that was still in there, and you want to see the best for your children, but this is no joke. So look at Langston 2092, I think it's his video. Jim Jones, York, Father Divine, yep, Father Yod. Yep, Father Yod is a white version. If you look at Father Yod, Y-O-H-D, is a white version of him. The music that he has is totally out of tune, out of key. It's not great music. But my reasoning was, most of the music that we listen to sounds fantastic, but it's denigrating our people. So I was like, okay, it might be out of tune, but the content is good. So I wound up, by the time I left there, I wasn't listening to anything else but his music. So people thinking they're so intelligent, you're thinking that you can't be scammed. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. 2 degrees, lawyer, librarian, physical therapist. Yes. Who was the white guy's name again? Father Yod. I have compiled an extensive playlist, extensive black and white cults. Get educated. Get some of your homies together. Get some fruit, male, female. Get your family members and educate yourself. Because your best bet is to see the patterns. I don't care what camp you're coming from. You can keep the camps. You need common sense. And the children, and unfortunately, let me tell you something. I love my people. I love my culture. But they take you off somewhere and they isolate you and start feeding you that. Well, not only they take you, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. A lot of us go. A lot of us go. It's not that they just said they take you. We're participating in it. We're going because we want something better. Your natural desires for family, community, sunshine is being exploited. Yeah, this is not a joke. And as I've said to someone, what we experience is not up for debate. And so I'm not here for entertainment. I'm here because many of us are not going to listen. And a hard head makes a soft behind. They're going to go in there and get isolated because they think that must be 10 times or 100 times better than anything they're experiencing out here. See, you got to dig. There's a reason why everybody that's in there is in there. There was a reason I was in there, that my family members, everybody's thinking they're escaping one thing, but they don't realize you're trading off one thing for something else. And it's something unknown that you hadn't anticipated. And by the time you figure out the patterns, it's too late. Your resources are gone. You're isolated. You may have had sex with one of them. Even though they have you, the newer folks come and testing for AIDS, they don't have protected sex in there. You don't get to say he controls what's going on with the sex. And then his right hand is her. And then his other right hand is her. And nobody else is going to speak up or question him. They, you sit and you bow. I'm familiar with bowing and going to ashrams and all that. You may have one context, but he's controlling the context. Another pattern. The guru or the kind man or whatever is controlling the context of self, which he talks about a lot, the ego or the self. It's a lot of rhetoric, and they're just slightly different flavors with different twists. They speak something is missing inside. Yeah, there's nothing missing. There's nothing missing. You're just having life experiences. You may be traumatized or have bad memories. But if your father was there, he was present. They weren't the best parents, but that's life. And this is what's being excluded. They always have a core group of people that are in on the scam and control. Yes. But some of them, it's to different degrees. He has these women are turning a blind eye to what's going on. In too deep, and it's intricate because their loyalty is more so to the children. Women, our loyalty is to the children in our community. This is how we're being exploited because we have a heart, because we're empathic, because we're feeling. And so what happens? Women bring more people. Women, we will bring other people. All my clients, white, Jewish, whatever, are walking around with this man's books and tapes that I'm selling to help raise funds for something I think is a worthy cause. Yeah, I was sharing this information. Not because I thought it was better. People were like, well, why aren't you selling your book? But I'm like, but I'm doing something for community. So that was my intention. I just had not been informed. So when I'm sharing, it's to inform so you can make an educated decision. Some people are still going to be sucked in, and I dare say simply because either they're ashamed of things that they have done in their life, key technique, or because they feel like they finally have a listening ear of a father, not realizing that they're being audited. Audited is a technique where they get all of your information, and they're being a great listening ear because that information is going to be used to manipulate you later. But he's going to take all of your information, and he's going to take all of your resources. And because you didn't have the discipline, have sexual discipline or a certain maturity with that, or maybe you could have been introduced to sex at a young age in an unwholesome way, he's going to provide all of the answers. Yep, all of them. L. Ron Hubbard, black versions, white versions. It's the same thing. If you remove your preferences and look at the patterns, I invite you to look at the patterns. Anytime you ask a question, you're giving all kinds of rationalizations and justifications for it. So again, some take homes. Check out that brother Langston 2092. Check out his video. Check out what he's saying. Common sense. You can be pulled in deep because they usually look to people that have been, these cult leaders, people that have been traumatized or feel like they're looking for a father figure or looking for family and community. Your basic human desires are being exploited, and this could happen any part of the world. But I can say, as a black person, it's very traumatic. You don't want to believe that somebody in your community is doing it, and they're going hard. A narcissist does not back off. Look at the patterns. They go even harder, because their other option is, maybe they implode, maybe they decide to have them do a mass suicide or go into seclusion, something. But they going harder, and they will use other people's testimonies. They will use, sometimes doing a public event, just by you attending the event. Key technique: just by you attending one of these people's events or giving them big ups on social media, you don't realize that you're giving them credibility. Just by having intelligent women there and having me there, my sister, and other people, we'll use as testimonies to draw other people in there. You don't realize how indirectly you are being used to give him credibility. The young people here that are here from Belize, come from decent families. So if their families are seeking to protect their children, and like they just want to make sure that they're, again, pattern. You just want to make sure that your young people are safe, because while other people are being entertained, you want to make sure that your young person, your family member, stays alive in there. You want to make sure you're concerned about their mental stability, because you know something is off. So that's the parents' main concern, is that their family members, the mothers of these folks, just want to make sure that they're healthy and okay. This one's a whole nother situation, right? Because she seems like she upgraded her situation. Because where's she going back to in Africa? You know what I'm saying? So they're thinking it's got to be 10 times better. I'm so grateful because he saved my life. If somebody was out for, they think, this is a million times better. My eating is a million things and changes that you can make on your own. So I emphasize that because we underestimate the process. I stumbled across you a month ago. I do conversations about coach. If you'd be willing, we'd be happy to have you come on over so you can tell your journey. So feel free to leave your information. Again, I just caution folks, I'm very clear that I'm a grown adult with my own family. This has been going on for a long time. That my first priority is my health and the health of my family. Life still goes on. So another reason people don't speak up is because they still got to go on with their life. You still have to pay your rent and eat. You still have to work out in the world. They promised the young people, this next generation, that you won't have to work and things are going to be easy. But it's some key things that young man pointed out in his video, that you think you're not working. But I even saw it. I was like, wow. I was like, nobody here has a 9 to 5. And I had asked them in my emails when I was thinking of going over, how are they, I said, how are you living? How are you surviving? Initially, he never answered. Again, key distinction. Then finally, I asked so much, he said, we turn to the land, right? You get very vague answers. Oh, they're working all right. They are working. They lived in a bus for over 10 years. But see, the kind, using all of these folks, their resources. Then he tells you that he was a millionaire, right? What professor, because he has a master's degree too, right? Like other cult leaders are educated, whether they're street educated or educated by, colleges or universities. They have the education, all right. But one millionaire, that became a millionaire from being a professor. Then he was dealing something with diamonds, which some of his stories sounded very sketchy. Let's say he was dealing with diamonds. Then he said he had this restaurant. Now he's talking to somebody that's been into holistic healing and juicing and fasting. This stuff with living foods wasn't even new to me. I had been exposed to living foods in 1994. I think 1994. So it wasn't new to me. I had traveled working for the airline for several years. So there are certain things that I had seen. People, to be quite honest, are so taken aback with nature because some of us haven't traveled and been exposed. So I think in mango season, as the brother pointed out, mango season is not all year round. During mango season, there's gigantic mangoes falling on the ground. That's just the environment. Some of the people here don't even eat the mangoes. So we're so impressed. I could take a picture of a mango tree from a certain angle and it looks like I'm in a rainforest. I live closer to the bush. I don't hear these folks that are so-called living out in nature mentioning any of the stuff that I experienced out in the bush in terms of could have been killed by a snake, tarantulas as big as your foot, swarms of termites that are in your ears and all in your clothes, these ants called angellas that everybody has to clear out, and animals, everything clears out. The gigantic cockroaches, flooding, hurricane. I don't hear anybody, all these folks talking all of this nature stuff. I don't hear any of that stuff. I don't see them taking a machete and cutting any grass. Um, I just don't hear. You got a fan. It gets hot here. It's just a different environment. So if you are ignorant, not stupid, but you haven't been exposed to it, then it sounds like, ooh, ah. And this is part of where somebody's getting you based on ignorance, because we don't travel and we haven't seen. Folks that have lived in the Caribbean, they're used to sugar cane. They're used to mangoes, the people that grew up with land. So we're just so far removed from a certain environment of nature that we're oohed and awed by all of the stuff that we're seeing. I mean, I can put some pictures up right now. You can see me in some areas with mango trees dripping and coconut trees and watch. So I'm just totally enthralled. I've never seen brothers, black folks driving around on tractors, but they exist. This stuff is not new. So folks are coming, bringing in the young people some information that's not even new. He's a researcher or a historian, whatever. He just went to school and studied this stuff and put it in a package. People are just repackaging. It's like people repackaging fitness 20 million different times. It's resistance training and doing cardio. It's doing labor. And so your body looks so different, but they keep packaging into CrossFit, packaging into body lifting, packaging into you're just repackaging the same stuff. And we're just being conned because we just refuse to want to deal with certain realities. And we've gotten ourselves into certain situations, usually out of youth and ignorance, or sometimes laziness, or not following through. And so his situation, tropical situation, so-called tropical situation, looks a lot better than what's going on out in the States. Anywhere you go, there's a trade-off. Folks are not familiar. There's a different economy over here in Central America. If you wasn't being prepared and being responsible with your finances, you come over here, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Many folks, I was saying the other day, when the water goes out, electricity is going out, people would freak out. People would flip out. So when folks keep saying it in nature, you know, when the internet signal goes out, you know, a couple people said, I can't see the video. Your video, the sound is not good. Because this is, you know, it's 2018. But another country is another reality. The internet is not always ready available. There is a rainy season. There are a certain amount of bugs and things that you're going to see. So all these folks that are living out in nature, I don't hear any of that. I don't hear anybody talking about all the mosquitoes. I'm talking about chemtrails. They're not talking about when trucks have to go around and spray for the amounts of mosquitoes that they have, the different varieties of mosquitoes. So all of these people that are talking about their nature, there's all kind of lodges and resorts up the woolseye here, and a lot of them are expats from the States, and a lot of them, some people are bed and breakfast. You know, you can't come to other countries sometimes and taking the food out of other people's mouths, although some people do it. But there's resorts and all kinds of stuff everywhere over here. Look at the Airbnbs. Go online and look at the Airbnbs for Belize in Central America. A lot of people think this is South America. This is Central America. So this is saying, as black folks, we're not doing due diligence in terms of getting educated or thinking about traveling. If you want to travel, you can travel. Travel, and I've had some young people reach out to me. I encourage you, don't go anywhere without a round trip ticket. If you can have a credit card somewhere that has enough frequent flying miles and enough credit so that if you need to get a ticket, that you can get a ticket, that you have savings and you have several accounts, that you do a background check on people and a character reference. All of it you're not going to see online. You can see a lot online, but you can't see all of this stuff online. And I don't encourage folks at this point, you know, I don't encourage folks to go into any groups, any cults, any religions, not one. I don't care what you call yourself. I'm going by your behavior and your track record only. I've had to tell several young women, when people, for example, are throwing the terms brother and sister, using the keywords, brother and sister, or name dropping. Oh, I know the same people that you know. Oh, I know your grandmother. Oh, we family, kin. You get open, especially women. You get wide open. As soon as somebody starts saying brother, sister, Africa, children, your defenses drop. Sometimes your drawers drop. You know, these are key words. You know, everybody, just because somebody might be a brother or sister in the community, that doesn't mean that's what their behavior is. You have not lived with these people up close and personal, over a long period of time. And quite honestly, a lot of young brothers are looking up to this guy. They're looking up to him because it seems like he has about 99 acres of land. You don't know how he got the land, right? Pattern. Usually he will befriend people that are sick. And people, when they're sick or dying, will do and sign over almost anything, right? Because you can't take the land with you. We're not seeing the patterns. We're not seeing the patterns. And folks in the cult they're going to turn a blind eye. Heartbreaking, but heart-wrenching, but butt-kicking lesson. So if you think you're going to run from one thing to another because it seems like it's so much better than your family, you're not anticipating. You don't have any way of knowing. You're ignorant to the trade-off, and you're not going to figure out what the trade-off is until it's too late. So we all have to pay for the decisions we make. If you put a lot of junk in your body, it's got to come out. Right? It's got to come out. So you got to pay for that no matter what rituals or whatever somebody says, how many candles you burn. If you created some children and you were young and ignorant and weren't really mature or ready to be a parent, and you didn't really know the person best out of ignorance, then you're still responsible, whether you were ignorant or not, to take care of those children. Right? So it boils down to respect for yourself and others, but respect for yourself and responsibility. Responsibility has actions attached to it. And these folks, these cult leaders, think that they don't have any accountability. They're making all the rules. So they're talking about white supremacy, but they're creating their own version. So they're distinct patterns, and they're going to ooh and ah you. We love the Ankh. We know what the Ankh represents. But people take the crosses and the Ankhs and all these things and misrepresent them all the time, because many of us are into symbolism and we don't realize it, into spookism, because of we're so intimidated by the questions about life that we can't answer. But even if you can't answer with where's what in the constellation in the star Orion or the Sirius B or whatever, one thing you can peep is if somebody's talking to somebody like a piece of crap, their character, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's scamming or robbing, you don't need a degree in religion or a higher education degree to feel how people are treating you, right? You don't need a degree for that. This one was trying to tell me and say, quote unquote, high priest, she's not calling me sister. And I said to her, I'm very well aware of how a sister should treat another sister. I said, you're a woman, you're a person just like me. Yeah, and you wouldn't treat her like any kind of sister. So I don't want to go on and on. I invite you to go look at that video. I invite you to share the playlist and get educated. And again, some people may have, like many of these women are very devoted to women and children, but there's other stuff that's mixed in with it that taints the whole situation. And now there are more new babies being born, and these brothers are in very deep. You can start out with good intentions, but many people, whether the girls with the Mansons or other stuff, they might have started out with some intentions or thought they were something better, but it got twisted real quick, and they're in very deep. So I have a lot of compassion, but the reality is, it is what it is. So I'm sure, you know, when he finds this video, he's going to come out and say something, but I'm going to speak the same simple truth without rhetoric every single time. So check out the video. There's something, how did you become a high priest? Listen to his reasoning. It doesn't, if you looking back now, it's like, wow, that sounds janky. It sounds stupid. And you think, how could I even have, you know, overlooked that? But you're looking at the other things. Again, we're looking at family, what we want to see. And women that appear to be happy. She never looked happy. The newer books, you know, look better. But she's always looked down and depressed in all of the videos. I don't know. She tried to get away, but she came back for her children. So there's so much you can't see. There's so many rationalizations and justifications. And the reality is, while people are being entertained, who's going to ask for an investigation in our community? Who's going to ask for an investigation so that all parts can be seen? Are people going to continue to use rhetoric to twist the law, and one minute you use the law and next minute you don't use the law? There's no accountability, and there's no standard for scamming in our community and misuse of women and children and young adults. And once folks, excuse my nails, I've been out in the garden. But it is what it is. Folks are still gonna go over there. It's sad, but children, and also the children that are born in here into this don't know any better. They're isolated too. They don't know any better. Am I saying that our children need to be exposed to everything that's out here in terms of the culture and being over sexualized and all sorts of stuff? No. But what I'm also saying, you know, is that these children have been indoctrinated from babies. So he's got a whole new version. So I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you just common sense in terms of treatment and scamming. It's not a good look, and it hasn't appeared that anybody's coming to investigate or for whatever reasons to protect women. Then we're told that we're not feminine when you want to defend yourself. Then you're told that you're a sellout if you go to the white man. So I'm wondering, what is our recourse really as women, right? So that we could still love and be our feminine selves. And I've come to the conclusion, more common sense. This stuff has been just a reality check. In nature, it is totally feminine to protect your children and your family. In wars, men folks have died or defending or for a long time, and it's women that still have to raise the children. So to me, it is the most feminine thing to have a clarity of sight so that we can protect the children and stop allowing predators, whether they be male or female, around our children. And we also need to choose much better, not just looking at people's outward appearance, whether that be they look like they have money, or they look like they have muscles, or they look like they have looks. We're overlooking morals and character and consistent behavior over an extended period of time. So the older books, you would have to look. This one was looking so down and out, and she's looking like she was having breakdowns in there. So I feel tremendous compassion, but at this point, we're not to allow the compassion to make us overlook and be passive, and so that people like this don't have any accountability, because no one is coming to save us. All right then. So take care. There was someone that had put something. I don't know what CCTV is, but something would need to be credible, because I'm not here for entertainment or to exploit myself. I'm here to make sure that folks, especially in the Black community, are informed about the patterns so they can make better decisions. And these cult leaders are not telling you anything new about fruits and vegetables and natural hair. This is, it's old. This is a resurgence of Black hippiedom. This stuff, it's not new information. It's not new. It's not new. It may be new to some of our young people, but it's not. And it's got, unfortunately, some of our folks really confused, because some of this stuff you can really do on your own. Everyone needs to be vetted. Healthy boundaries are necessary even within our own community with each other. You're not to trust people based on what they say. Yes. But if somebody monetizes their channel or not, folks got to eat. I'm not here to place condemnation on people if however they're finding to honorably to eat, because YouTube is not owned by us. Facebook is not owned by us. You know what I'm saying? You have to use what you can, to do what you need to do. I'm helping a book drive here. Do we own all the companies for the books that we're reading? No, it's up to parents. It's up to us to be discerning. I'm sure the slaves that learned how to read were those Black published books back then. When they were trying to read, they were trying to read everything they could get their hands on so they could understand the game that was being played on them. So we just have to use our common sense. Holding on to this rigid idealism, I get it. I eat living food, but it's just fresh fruits and vegetables. But am I going to condemn somebody because they're eating fruits and vegetables that are in the freezer because they're in a cold environment and that's what their budget says and they're doing the best that they can? No, that's ridiculous. People have to do the best they can with what they have. Again, several young women have reached out to me, young people, and I'll tell you, they want to live a better life. They, want to be vegan. Then eat fruits and vegetables. Start from where you are, join a food co-op. If you're really serious, join a food co-op. Look at your consumption patterns. I think what people are really looking for a guidance in community is what they see, or which way to go. But be careful out here in these internet streets. You got to be really, really careful. And you want to, I invite folks to look at people's moral and their character, and that's going to be limited to what you can see from online. If you're serious and you want to travel, you will save the money. You will save the money and make sure you do it right and you do it safely. You won't open your legs because somebody's saying that, you're the divine this and the divine that and your brother and sister, and you open your legs. Male and female. Everybody keep your genitals to yourself and get your priorities in order. That's going to help you not be exploited. Be able to pay your own way. Vet everybody. Vetting, I didn't know one time what vetting is. That means it's a litmus test for who you allow into your mind, into your heart, around you, into your finances, who you divulge all of your information to. You could have good intentions. That doesn't mean that they do. So a vetting process and healthy boundaries is just because you like somebody or vouching for people who we don't know, who we see on the internet. It's not the people. You have to look at the principle. The principles guide you on morals and character. It doesn't matter what their outfit is or if they have locks or not. You know, that's telling you something, but it's not telling you enough of the bigger picture. So we want to develop a litmus test so we can have healthy boundaries even with each other, because people are coming with all kinds of trauma and vices and things, even within our own community. That's the reality. That's the reality. We have to be honest with ourselves. You know what I'm saying? But if you're running thinking somebody, you want them to change your spending habits, you want them to give you rules and stuff like that, they got rules for you. Then you want to run from your family, these guys, they got something for you. They got something, these co-leaders, they got something for you. And just like folks, you want discipline, you want to go to the military, they got something for you. But you're not banking on the other part because you want money for college and you don't know how to do the numbers and you don't know how to read, you don't know how to look at interest rates. They got something for you if you don't know how to read. If you don't know how to read personalities, if you don't know how to read numbers, if you don't know how to read, they got something for you. And you're probably not going to like it. And by the time you figure it out, you may be in too deep. So all I could do is just share from a space of just common sense. I just felt really disturbed to wake up to just, and I knew it was coming. Seeing this man Joseph Robinson with this next generation. We want to see the next generation, but I'm here to tell you, you can't see what's going on there. That man is a con artist, and I did not want to believe it. I did not want to believe that women. I did not want to believe that mothers could turn a blind eye. But it has been a rude awakening. I got taken to school. PhD. Don't overlook your church, your synagogue, your mom. Don't overlook folks. Stop putting folks on a pedestal. Human beings. You don't know all their sexual behaviors, their spending habits, how they treat other people when you're not around. You cannot vouch for these people. Vouch for you first. And when something's off, don't overlook it because he's a good brother. She's a good. Don't overlook it. Don't overlook it, because by the time you get in too deep, look at the sister's face. I don't know if you can see her face. Her face is telling a story right here. And so there's a lot of other pictures in the older books that are a lot worse, and I always used to wonder about her. And when I got to see her up close and personal, it's heart-wrenching. I couldn't even tell you it all, but I'm saying a hard head makes a soft behind. Some people looking to run from something, you're running from one thing and into another. It's like running away, from Christianity and slavery and the good shit, Jesus, first slave ship, not realizing that the sub-Saharan slave trade was much longer and more brutal than the transatlantic slave trade. Just out of ignorance. Just out of being not well informed. Okay. So this has been long enough. Yeah, create a great day. Be smart, be aware, do your research. Look at the playlist. Go through the playlist. Look at James Bevel response on YouTube, part 1 and part 2. Because your mouth should be open and on the floor. A lot of these newer generations not familiar. Look at the patterns. Don't be afraid to see. Look at James Bevel, Father Yod. It's a couple others. Look at the black cults. Look at the other cult leaders. And then also look at the people that were in the cults, that were the daughters and the sons that left. That's going to tell you something. Look at the daughters and the sons that got out of these cults. Because I've been in there. I've seen some of them. I've seen the treatment between each other. I've seen, yeah. Get educated. All right, take care.